There are a few key states that many political watchers have their eyes on, if for nothing more than to see how events in recent times will affect the outcome of the gubernatorial elections. Could the seismic shift that voters were looking for happen at the state level? In Lagos State, Gbadebo Rhodes Viver of the Labour Party and Abdulaziz Jandor Adedire of the PDP are the main challengers to the incumbent, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the APC. Eyes will be watching this election closely as the state went to the Labour Party's Peter Obi during the presidential elections. And just not too far from Lagos State, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, elected into office in 2019, is running for a second term amid claims that he threw his support behind APC candidate Bola Tinubu during the presidential election. Makinde's alleged act has caused fracas within the PDP camp, and the APC branch in the Oyo State has denied the claims and actually distanced itself from his re-election bid. Makinde is a member of the infamous G5 governors of the PDP. And talking about the G5, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State has been a central figure in this elections this year. An intense battle can ensue between the major contenders, Toye Cole of the APC, Sim Fubara of the PDP, and Magnus Abe of the Social Democratic Party. Fubara has the backing of Wike, but Cole and Abe seem to also be able to hold their own weight. In Adamawa State, Aisha Binani of the All Progressives Congress is vying to become Nigeria's first elected female governor. The elections on Saturday will likely deliver on as much controversy, disagreements, and challenges to the final results as the presidential elections have done. So let's get into the conversation. Live with me right now via Zoom, of course, I have Akin Oshuntokun. He's the Director General of the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council. And I'm also expecting Benga Olorunkwame, Public Relations Consultant and a member of the APC. Hopefully he's able to join us very soon. Mr. Oshuntokun, let me start with what is probably a large part of the focus on Saturday, and that is, of course, Lagos State. Do you see the Labour Party as repeating what happened during the presidential elections when Peter Obi won the state? Do you think we could see a Labour governor in Lagos?
Well, first and foremost, when you are inviting people to interview, it's better to establish the parameters very well. I'm not here to debate with anybody. I didn't know you were calling the PC person to come and speak here. If that were to be the case, I would assign the spokesperson of our party to come and talk here, not me.
So, Mr. Oshuntokun, it's not a debate, it's a conversation, and we want to see more than one view. So it's not planned as a debate. Apologies if it came across to you as that.
And of course, I won't be able to stay long, okay?
All right, so can we get to my first question?
Yes. The governorship question of election you're talking about has a few peculiarities. One of which, is that the present incumbent and for whom he stands proxy. Between them, they've governed Lagos State for 24 years, and I've not had much to show for it. So that was before the presidential election 2 weeks ago. It used to be taken for granted that one way or the other, the incumbent or the godfather, one way or the other, secure the continuity of the governorship in Lagos. But that projection changed, from the result of the presidential election 2 weeks ago. And, even by the results released by INEC, it was indicated that there was a rejection of that dispensation. But even he didn't tell the whole story because the real figure were much higher than the figures provided by INEC. And of course, the difference between the candidates, and especially between our candidates, and what Lagos, the status quo in Lagos couldn't be more drastic. You have a young, dynamic coming in, standing on our platform against an order that had held the country or the Lagos to by the jugular for 24 years. The people expressed what their precise feelings about what they feel is going on in Lagos at the presidential election, where they were rejected. So it shouldn't naturally we expect all other things for granted. That of course we will win the election on Saturday.
All right.
But Lagos and Nigeria being what it is, as we expect it to be manipulated. And despite that, of course, we still win the election.
So, Mr. Oshutokun, Mr. Oshutokun, I want to take you up on something. So you talk about expectations of seeing manipulation. First, you had mentioned, of course, that you believe the Labour Party won more votes in Lagos State than was reported, but you are also expecting that there will be attempts to manipulate or rig the elections that are happening on this Saturday. So I have to ask you, how much faith, how much confidence do you then have in the Independent National Electoral Commission? This is the same commission that oversaw the process that the party is challenging now at the election, at the presidential election, petition election tribunal. So how much faith do you have in INEC towards Saturday's elections?
Well, INEC has proven to be untrustworthy. There's no basis for trusting the INEC or believing in them. Nonetheless, they are the legal authority charged with the responsibility of conducting the election. Like this idea that deceive me once, shame to me. You do it twice, shame to you. So there's no basis for, believing that, and they don't have their pedigree is not credible. But despite that, they still went ahead to show who they are at the last elections by the manipulations that they did. And some they did very coolly, with tipex of using barrel to cancel things like that. And so there's no basis for trusting INEC or they will be compelled to do what is right, one way or the other. And of course, I think they can sense the mood in the country, that those family further. And that Saturday all eyes will be on them to see how far they are prepared to redeem their image. But to tell the long story short, I don't give them the benefit of doubt. I have no faith in what they have not provided me a basis, to believe or trust whatever they say or do. These are people who want to reconfigure real figures that they themselves know that you are going to need at the judiciary. So there is no basis for us to believe. The man who is the resident electoral commission in Lagos.
Okay.
Very many people have called for his removal because of his antecedents of what he did in the Osun State election in 2019. So there is no basis for trust or confidence in INEC.
So it almost sounds like the party is already setting itself up to have a basis for contesting the results if the results don't go in its favor. It's almost like you're prepared to cry wolf even ahead of the situation.
I'm not crying wolf. Look, they have a record. It's not a crying wolf. That is the reality. I don't know how you look. What crying wolf is there? It's all over, the evidence is all over the place, of what they did. Observers, international observers have commented on. So anybody in Nigeria who doesn't know that what they did was a sham, probably is living in his own universe. So it's not a question of crying wolf. It's a question of coming to terms with reality. This is what you are confronted with. So it's not a question of not the only one making the judgment. That is universal judgment of INEC.
So let's Let's come back to Lagos because, again, as I said earlier on, it's going to be one of the states that a lot of attention and focus are on. What do you think are the issues that are going to bring Lagos voters out, whether they're deciding to vote to keep the incumbent Babajide Sanwo-Olu or deciding to go a different way in the direction of the Labour Party's Gbadebo Rhodes-Viver or the PDP's Abdulaziz Adediran? What do you think are the germane issues for voters in Lagos State as they head to the polls on Saturday? Hello, Mr. Oshutokun. All right, I think we're having some technical issues. Okay, fantastic. Mr. Please go ahead, I can hear you.
So that is the mood of the electorate. And I see them redoubling their efforts, doubling down on what they did earlier in terms of rejecting them at the polls. So that is what is going to happen, and I think they can sense it. They're in a panic mode, doing all sort of things, fanning the embers of ethnic discord. So these days, young people are desperate for what they do not deserve. These are the kind of measures that we sought to.
So we see from the presidential and national assembly elections that the governors of Abia State, Benue State, as well as Plateau and as well as Cross River all lost their bid to move on to the Senate. They either lost to a Labour Party or a PDP candidate. So while the APC has retained control of the National Assembly, some say that these upsets and the 6 senatorial and 34 House of Representatives seats that Labour has won are signs of things to come. Do you think these are really signs of things to come, whether in this election or even in the future as Nigeria's political scene and arena continue to mature?
Well, I don't know that what has happened, whether it will endure or become sustainable. The people that are largely responsible for the shape-up of the status quo, the young people, the younger generation, of course, the future that we are dealing with, so they are right to step in and express their acceptance or rejection of the status quo. So, to a large extent, depending on how the outcome of the elections that are taken to court, especially the presidential election, whether how it goes, will determine whether they can say what they have cause, to believe in the system or, feel boxed into the corner and take to protest. I don't know, look, as I said, this INEC, you can't put anything beyond it. It's strange that the 3 parties, leading parties, it looks to me like they were allocated 12, the same figures. It's a bit suspicious, It is statistically improbable that you have these 3 parties having the same, but it can serve a useful purpose of saying that, look, you got something from it, is balanced, is so and so and so on, so kind of can be a basis for intellectual fraud, So, we don't know about, regardless of, the mess that INEC made of the election, it is still reflective, of, the tendency, for people that look, Nigeria has reached the rock bottom, and you can't sink further. So, the only thing that can happen is change. How that change comes about, it becomes debatable, peacefully or otherwise.
But I think we would all advocate for a peaceful change. Mr. Oshutokun, what we've heard from a lot of voters is expressing disappointment, not necessarily in who won or lost, but in simply the process that brought about a result on February 25th. And some have said they plan to stay home on Saturday. The governorship and state houses of assembly elections typically don't even get the attention that the presidential election does. But these elections are also important. Some might say even more important because these are the elected leaders who are closer to the people. Why do you think voters need to change how they look at these elections at this level?
Well, I don't know how we gather the information that voters have decided to stay away from the polls. I don't gather, that's not the information that I have. I think people are going to go to vote. They are doubling down on what the stance they've taken earlier on. And, look, it's a make or man, election, both at the governorship election level in Lagos and at the federal level. If Nigeria is going to go forward, change has to occur at those two levels and at the governorship levels generally across the country. I hope people are not frustrated, in expressing their will. I don't have cause to believe that the apathy will set in and that people will not come out to vote. Maybe a few people may take that stance. But from what I've gathered so far, I think that people are going to double down on the position they take, which they believe to be correct.
All right, so we'll leave it at that. We've conducted a number of Vox Pops and we've talked to the public since the presidential and National Assembly elections, and it is, of course, what we're getting from the public, so that's where that question came from. But Mr. Akin Oshutokun, Director General of the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council, thank you for joining me on Politics HQ.
You're welcome.